Hey guys, in this tutorial we're going to be learning how to create a blurry loading using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So let's get started. So this is the finished project. Now as soon as I reload the page, you can see that we have a loader or a counter at the center which starts from 0 and moves all the way to 100. Now as it moves towards 100, the opacity of the text fades out and also the blur effect of the background comes to normal. So here in my index.html file, I have already linked my CSS file. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing now is creating a div with the class of background so that I can add in the image tag within it for the image, and then I'm going to be creating a span with the class of counter with inner text as 0% so that the counter is visible. Now the browser, this looks pretty ugly since the image is pretty big in size. We need to resize it in our CSS. So in our CSS, I have already added some styling, like I have removed the margin and padding, and also added border box to box sizing and added Helvetica as the main font family. Now for the body, I have added min height to 100 viewport height and also display as flex. Now we're going to style the div with the class of background. So we're going to give it height and width of 100 viewport height and 100 viewport width, and we're going to add in position as relative since we're going to position the image within it absolutely, and we're going to add in overflow as hidden. Now the image within the background, we're going to position it absolutely as I've said. So I'm going to be giving it top and left as 0 and height to 100% and also width 100% and object fit to cover so that it maintains its aspect ratio. Now when I save this and I reload, you can see that now the image fits well, and also on the right side you can see that we have the loader since by default we have the flex set to as row. So now we're gonna style counter by giving it position absolute as I've said, and we'll add top and left to 50%, and also we're gonna transform and translate it along its axis, and we'll give it a black color and also font weight and also a bit of font size. So as you can see that we have aligned it at the center, and so we're done with our CSS. Now let's work with JavaScript and make it. So in our index.html file, right above the ending body tag, we're going to create the script tag, and we're going to create a variable for the background which going to take in the image. So we're going to use query selector to grab onto the image from the DOM, and then we're going to create a variable for the counter. So we're going to grab that using query selector and marking the class, and then we're going to create a variable called timer and we're going to set it to 0. Now we're going to set interval to a variable called load for 30 milliseconds, and we're going to call a function every 30 milliseconds. So we're going to write the function right here. So this function would basically increment the timer, and this timer which now is incremented, so basically we want to set the inner text of the counter as this timer. Now when I save this and when I run, you can see that the counter at the center of our screen, basically it starts to load and goes on increasing, but we want it to stop at 100%. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in a condition which is going to check when it's over 99. So we're going to clear the interval load. Now with this, if I save and if I run, you can see that it stops now at 100%. All right, I can reload and I can show you again. Now we need a function which basically can convert this 0 to 100%, this percentage, into the opacity. So for that, I'm going to be grabbing a function from the Stack Overflow. So I'm going to be pasting it in. So this is the function wherein you can basically change the range of numbers from one set to another. So I basically want to convert this percentage into the opacity, and so as the text moves towards 100, I want it to fade in, meaning that I want its opacity to be 0 when it's 100%. So to do that, I'm going to be writing counter.style.opacity. Now here I'm going to be calling this function scale and then I'm going to be providing in the timer, which is basically the number which gets incremented, and then I'm going to be adding in the input minimum value, which is 0, the input maximum value, which is 100 since it's 0 through 100, and then input minimum, which is 1, and input maximum is 0 since I want it to be 0 when it's 100%, and at 0% I want it to be 1. Now in the browser you can clearly see that the text fades out when it reaches 100%, and at the beginning it has opacity of 1, and as it moves towards 100 it gets to 0. Now we're going to do the same for the background image. So we're going to take in background.style.filter, and then we're going to add in the blur property that it has, and then we're going to use template literals, and we're going to call this scale. Now this time again we have the timer, we have 0 as minimum, 100 as maximum, and then for the blur I want it to have 30 and 0 since I want at the beginning I want it as 30, and then when it ends it should have 0 blur. Now when I save, you won't really see any difference because it's not 30. I need to specify the value in units, so I need to write in 30 pixels, so I'm going to be adding pixel right at the end. So at the beginning I want it to have 30 pixels, and then at the end it should have 0 pixel. Now there's a bit of flaw in this which you wouldn't really see now since the background is white. So if I change the background, you're gonna see something different. Now let me change the background. So if I have this image as the background, when I load you can see that it loads, but at the edge you can see that we have kind of like a square at the border which doesn't look that great, so we want to remove that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our CSS file, and then we're going to add top, which was 0 to minus 30 pixels. So basically we want it to shift a bit at the top left corner. So now we are left with this white space at the left and bottom. So we're going to increase the height, so we're going to use the calc function, and we're going to add in 100% plus 60 pixel for the height and the width. Now with this should look perfectly fine, so you can use any background image. Now the blur effect would look all great. Now let me change the background to the original one again. So with this we have completed this video. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you guys learned something new. So meet you guys in the next video. Till then, bye bye.